And for more, we can cross to London. Andreas Krieg is a senior lecturer at the School of Security Studies at King's College London. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24.
Hi, good evening.
Catherine Colonna, the French foreign minister in Beirut, where just a few days ago there was Iran's foreign minister. Iran closely aligned with Hezbollah, its main benefactor. Your thoughts on this sort of parallel diplomacy, if you will, two camps?
Well, there have been all kinds of, shuttle diplomacy going on over the last couple of days, and rightly so. I think the lead has been taken by the United States, kind of use their network in the region to kind of make sure that this conflict in Gaza remains fairly locally focused on Gaza and doesn't spill over into other parts of the region. And obviously, the greatest concern everyone is having is Hezbollah. Iran, at the same time, also very concerned that if Hezbollah got involved into this kind of conflict, that everything could spill out of control and drag Iran into a conflict that Iran doesn't want. And also it kind of raises the concern of many of these non-state actors, including Hamas, are self-sufficient entities. Their networks in themselves, they have a great degree of agency and also autonomy to do what they think is necessary. And it shows that the Iranians, through their proxy and surrogate network, might expose themselves to risks of getting dragged into a conflict, considering also that the US are really increasing their sort of deterrence posture in the region. So all of this is going on at the same time. Nobody wants this to escalate. But then again, all parties also have certain red lines that they can and cannot accept.
You know, Andreas, with each day we're reading stories in the international press about just how well prepared this Hamas attack was, with a huge arsenal, knowing where to go, knowing who to target. There was, and this coming after that initial report by the Wall Street Journal that there had been a coordination with Hezbollah, and that had even been a meeting in Beirut the Monday before the attack. Your thoughts on how Hamas pulled off something so ambitious?
Right. I mean, this is certainly not something that they came up with impulsively over the weekend and then decided to execute it. I mean, that's been in the planning for months, some say as long as years. Certainly, there's been all kinds of support and coordination with external forces. And obviously, Hamas is part of a network of anti-Israel or anti-Israel aligned non-state actors in the region. And Hezbollah is certainly one of their main partners here. And Hezbollah has been somewhat a hub in the Iranian network to kind of help other non-state actors to operate on behalf of Iran. They've done that with the Houthis in Yemen as well. So Hamas certainly had some coordination going on. What I have a problem with is this article in the Wall Street Journal, which is based on some, very tentative sort of and also for the most part anonymous sources, and we don't really know if that's actually true. And then we've seen that the international community, including the Israelis, have spoken out against it, saying actually it wasn't true. We don't think Iran had a hand in it.
Well, let me ask you the question differently then, Andreas. Could Hamas have carried this out without speaking with Iran?
Yes. They could have done that. But I do think what we do know, however, is that Hamas operatives have been trained outside of Gaza and have come back in. And that if that training had actually taken place in Lebanon, which is very likely, then it would have been done under the direction of Hezbollah and potentially also with the knowledge of Iranian intermediaries from the Quds Force or the Revolutionary Guards. But the actual execution of it, the timing of it and the planning of it was done locally within the Gaza Strip. And I think Iran, for the most part, was really taken by surprise. I think Hamas was taken, the political leadership was taken by surprise, how it was executed, how deep they were able to penetrate, and the amount of atrocities that they were able to commit.
Very briefly, Andreas Krieg, you talk about the civilian leadership taken by surprise. We saw the Iranian foreign minister in Doha Sunday sitting down with Hamas's exiled leader, Ismail Haniyeh. What are the optics for the hosts of that venue, Qatar, which has both strong relations with Iran and with the West?
Well, Qatar has positioned itself after the Arab Spring as a mediator and a hub for basically building networks, connecting different actors that would not be able to meet directly. I mean, they've been negotiating with the Taliban for years. They've been hosting the Taliban and Hamas upon request of the United States to kind of build that relationship, and both Israel and the US have benefited from that relationship and continue to benefit. Qatar's been playing an intermediary role in kind of getting hostages out. They're playing an intermediary role between Ukraine and Russia to get hostages free there, and a lot was announced this morning. They're taking a role together with Egypt, trying to build up a humanitarian corridor. And lastly, they're playing a role with Iran as well, not only in terms of getting hostages released from Iran a couple of weeks ago, but also making sure that Iran is not going to escalate, because none of the states in the Arab world or the wider Middle East have any interest in escalation. And again, the US requires that sort of intermediary function that the Qataris are providing. And they're quite happy that the Qataris are providing this. And I think it has been misrepresented in the media as being some sort of politically aligned or ideologically aligned sort of partnership. For the Qataris, it's very pragmatist, makes them very relevant in the region, and it kind of gives them an outsized role to broker deals that nobody else can broker. And that's basically why it's happening.
Andreas Krieg, many thanks for joining us from London. Again, if you're just joining us here on France 24,